and just staying persistent. And there's so much to take away from this interview. We hope you enjoy it. All right, back with another episode of Hunt Suburbia. Sitting here with a special guest, actually one of the most requested guests that I was getting from guys, mostly on bowsite.com, which is a forum that we're both on. A lot of people reaching out saying, you got to interview SevOne, man. That guy kills beasts. He's got all these videos of these beast deer. I don't know where. They're definitely not mass deer. They're so big. You got to get SevOne. So we got SevOne, Patrick Burns, special guest, and highly anticipated, man. Happy to talk to you.
Yeah, man. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for taking the time.
Yeah, no, it's great.
Sunday, so you can't be hunting, right?
I know. It's usually a scouting day, though. That's the one good thing about scouting, or the non-Sunday hunting thing. I think for me is that reset. It gives us all that break,
Yeah.
For those of us that aren't just weekend warriors,
Yeah, and family time.
Yeah, you need that too.
Family time. Yeah. So what do you do on a Sunday? What do you normally do? Like are you going to a place that you're not going to be, that you're not actively hunting for one of your big boys, or what's your scouting like? Well, you don't want to go in there and on a non-hunting day,
up, yeah.
Right?
No, I mean, I kind of bounce around a lot, and I think the deer do the same thing. So I try to just take advantage of that time and maybe check an area that I've been letting cool off for a while, and just go in there and just poke around, see what the sign's like.
Yeah.
Just kind of. Just take advantage of the time, check some cameras. It won't be, there's specific spots where you're spending a ton of time hunting, or you're trying to stay out of and keep scent free and stuff like that. Obviously avoid those, but kind of the outer areas where they might be bouncing around, checking the does, stuff like that.
Or somewhere closer to home or something, right? That's what I end up doing on a Sunday, is go check a couple cameras, my closest cameras, just see what's poking around.
Yeah.
So you've got, you just showed me a couple of really big bucks that you're hunting. You got one good buck already this year. I think you called him a little guy on Facebook. He was
he's a solid 10.
He was a nice deer.
He just looked. I'm up so high in the tree sometimes that from 100 yards away, a deer coming in. I was filming him. He looked good, but I was just filming him. I was like, oh, this will be cool, get some footage into my buddies. But as he got closer, his rack started to grow, and I was like, man, I'm at 70 hours plus in the stand. This is the best. This is the best one yet. I need some deer jerky.
Yeah, and you got 2 tags.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So. And he's still probably, what do you think he scores? 130, 140?
Yeah, somewhere up there.
Yeah, it was
somewhere
nice deer.
Yeah, he's good. Nice heavy mass.
Yeah.
Good buck.
So you say you're up so high in the trees. How high do you set up?
The last time I range findered it, it was 9 yards. So.
9 yards in the tree? Oh, so what's that, 27 feet?
Yeah, 27 feet. Yeah, about
9
30.
yards just doesn't sound like a lot. Turn it into feet.
Yeah, turn it into feet. Yeah. You're a little higher up, yeah.
And are you saddle hunter? What do you use? Climber.
Yeah, I use the open shot. I probably got 6 climbers. I got a lot of the Viper Summits. I'll leave some of them around the tree the whole season, though,
Yeah.
in some more remote spots, because it's crazy humping them out there in the morning, and it's just louder too. So
yeah.
But I want to try the saddle thing. It seems interesting.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of guys switch.
I think I might try it over, in the spring and start, just testing it out. But I'm a summit climber guy too. I only have one, but
yeah, they're solid, man. You can take a nap in them.
Yeah, they're very comfortable. It messed me up earlier this year. I had a really nice 9-pointer that I've been hunting, and cell cam behind me triggered. I've told that on a few other podcasts. I don't want to go through too much of it, but it's cell cam behind me triggered 200 yards behind me, and it was my big 9-pointer, and he's probably 150 inch and be by far the biggest thing I've ever killed, and I'd be over the moon with it. And it was 10 minutes before shooting light, but I was like, I got to stand up and turn around because I know he's back there, and I just got to sit on the armrest and face that way. And he, I just lasted maybe 45 minutes sitting like that before it got too uncomfortable. Got back down in the comfort of my awesome climber, that summit chair. And then he ended up sneaking up behind me, and I couldn't get up and turn around. He was with the doe, and they took off, so.
It's crazy. It's crazy how that happens. They just wait you out. Perfect time.
Yep. So I want to pick your brain on scouting, because you seem to find areas that hold just huge bucks. And you told me, shedding is one of your big scouting tactics. So let's talk about how you shed. How do you hone in on a spot that might, first of all, have the big sheds? Or how do you find your big buck zones?
I try to do a couple of things. One, I spend a ton of time when I'm not in the woods looking at maps, using Google Earth and all that stuff, and just looking for different pockets. You know, it might not be the biggest woods, you know, just little patches that connect different sets of woods and stuff like that, and kind of overlooked areas too, you know, that I'm like, look at this, it's all developed around here, probably maybe there's nobody in there, you know, or it might be a private piece, and I'll target that, and then I'll go knock on the door. Yeah, after season for me is probably the best time, you know. Once season's over, after muzzleloader's over, I just start poking around, hiking miles and miles. I think I did close to 600 last year.
Wow.
Off season, just kind of, just hiking around and just following tracks. You follow tracks, look for oak ridges, look for, you know, different areas where it looks like there's a lot of feeding going on. You know, I mark the bedding and just repeat, you know,
And
rinse
now,
and
is
repeat.
that how you find most of your sheds, is getting on a track in the snow and just following it and finding the shed?
Yeah, well, I'll find the areas where they're feeding, and then I'll mark them.
Yeah.
And then I'll check it a couple times throughout the year, you know.
Yeah.
And if it looks really crazy, or it's in an area where I know there's specific bucks that I'm targeting, I already have cameras in there, so I'll have cameras on those feeding areas, and just really pay attention to them and keep track of if they drop. Even the cell cameras nowadays, those help, you know.
Yeah.
You see that, you know, one's missing a side, you got to get in there before the squirrels do.
Yeah. So now, do you find that they drop in feeding areas?
I find more in feeding areas. I mean, it's the same thing. It's almost the same
Heads
thing.
down. They're
Yeah, just I mean, think about it. After the season, they're just worried about eating
Yeah.
at that point. So
Yeah.
you know, they're bedding closer to the food. They're hanging out closer to the food. There's less pressure. There's less people in the woods, so
Yep.
they're not having to, you know, get into the thickest shit.
Yeah. No, you can
But
swear it.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I find the majority of mine in feeding. Occasionally, I'll find them on the runs, and I found a few in beds, but for the most part, I find them kind of in the feeding areas, big oak flats, stuff like that, up high.
Because I've heard, I heard from people, and this past year, I very casually went looking for sheds. I'm just, getting more into hunting recently, but just casually looking for sheds, and people always say, oh, go into the thickest shit, where they're going to get tangled and it's going to fall off. So I was looking in like briar bushes, and it's like, no, I don't think they,
Yeah, you can find them there, but you also have to think of the amount of time you want to invest in shed hunting and how difficult it's going to be for you to spot something in that
Right.
tangled mess as well as get through it. Whereas if you're in a big ridge full of oak flats, you can, stop eating apple and glass it for 10 minutes and see if there's anything that looks interesting that you want to go check out. You can just kind of cover more ground that way.
Yeah, so glassing is a technique too, right? 'Cause
Yeah.
You'll see the shine.
Yeah, you'll see something, or you might even just see a feed area. I'll be able to look if there's no snow on the ground. I'll be able to see that the leaves are all kicked up in a certain area, or that there looks like there's a decent amount of rubs over there, or something like that, and just kind of cancel out some other stuff and head down to it. So
Yep. Also, like the real big bucks and like what you're after, they're not. They avoid the tangly like where they're walking all the time because they just have that big rack that's going to get caught and everything. So, they're I guess they're probably in like they're not in the wide open all the time, but they're in those spots
on the edges,
where
where
you can get
kind of those
still
transition
get through.
points.
Yep.
Yeah, that's true. I found some of my biggest ones. I mean, in super obvious places, places I almost overlooked. I'm like last year I found one of my targets. I had spent the entire day like searching every nook and cranny of this area, and then on my walk out, like towards my truck, I find it like 15 feet off of a hiking trail, and I'm like, what the hell,
Yeah.
But that's how it goes, they go wherever they want. It's just is what it is.
So you don't have a dog that helps you out? Because I know a lot of people use dogs.
I do have a dog, but my dog is useless. I have a shepherd, and she just likes to get out, so I'll bring her with me. But I mean, she's literally. I have videos of her tripping over like 150 sheds. Like no, she'd rather she'll chase the deer though if she smells them. But no. I've went out with a couple of my buddies that have dogs, and it's super impressive. I think eventually I'd like to try that. But
Start with a puppy, right, and train them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have so much fun doing it myself. I'm a half shed dog,
Yeah, that's right. So you look at maps, you try to find these overlooked places. You wait for postseason. Now they can shed. I mean, some shed in December, right?
Mm-hmm.
But January, and then by February they're all off, or what?
I mean, I think it fluctuates. For example, one of the my hit listers last year, he made it until mid-February. The year before, he shed in December.
Wow.
So I think that had something to do with the lack of acorns that year and just his overall health. But yeah, I've seen him shed early, mid-December, and then I've seen some, March still holding. So I think there's multiple factors that come into play, and I'm still trying to figure out a lot of that too. I think even the drought this year, I'm curious as to what effect that's going to have on their shedding. Is it earlier, later, what?
Yeah, I guess we'll find out on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think if they've had a stressful season, maybe if they had a bunch of contact with hunters or they were jumped a bunch, that probably factors into it a little bit.
Yeah, get rid of these things.
Yeah. So let's talk. So shedding is one, but the cameras, you got a lot. How many cameras you got up, you think?
Close to, almost 75, I think. I have close to 60 regular ones, and then, almost, I think, 12 spy points that I use right now.
Yep.
So batteries are a necessity, and they're expensive.
They are. And then a lot of those times, they're probably out in remote spots, and it's like you got to get all the way up in there to change it.
Yeah. So I use the lithium, so they usually last, almost at least the season.
Me too. What do they take, 12 batteries?
No. Most of mine are. I use a ton of wild game ones, so most of mine are 8.
Okay. Yeah, I'm using the Moultrie cell cam. Well, for the cell cams.
Oh, the cell. Yeah, even the spy points are only 8.
Oh wow.
8 batteries. Yeah.
Yep.
And I've started some back in June, and they're still at 100%. So with the lithium, so it depends on how much signal you get and how often you have it transfer. I know a couple of my buddies that have them transferring instantaneously all the time for no reason, and they're like running through batteries super quick.
Yeah.
So I do like 12 times a day.
Yeah.
It's exciting every 2 hours to see if there's anything happening.
Yeah, it is. What do you? So what's your biggest buck that you've killed in inches? Do you have them all measured?
Yeah, I think close to 160. About that. Yeah.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, but you've killed quite a few in that range, haven't you? Like going 150s, 160s.
Like 4. Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome.
And then some other ones that are smaller, but yeah.
And the one you showed me, that ain't a 160 though.
No.
He's like a 190 or something. I don't know.
We'll see.
That thing is huge.
Yeah, he's a beast. Super wide too.
Yeah.
But he's a ghost too.
And all kinds of junk.
Yeah. And he's been like that for, I don't know, at least 5 years. I have sheds from 2015, and it's very similar,
Do you have camera pictures of them all
Since
those years?
2017, yeah.
Yeah.
And it just, you get closer and closer year after year. And this year I was by far the closest. And just like with anything else, man, just factors you can't predict come into play,
Yeah.
Somebody else hunting close, just so many different things that you just can't predict. And then, the construction, a storm knocks over a bunch of trees in an area. Now they're cleaning that out. And it's just unpredictable factors just come into play sometimes. So you put together a plan, and it's not really a plan anymore. So you have to kind of adjust to it. So
how old do you think this buck is? If you've been, you've
10, 11 easy.
Oh man.
Yeah, he's super
old man of the woods.
He's super old. Yeah, and I don't think he plays any games. I have video of him at like 2 a.m. in the middle of nowhere, like froze up on the camera, not looking at the camera, but smelling and radar ears for what seems like no reason. Maybe there was a coyote or something like that in the area, but just very careful. Every time I catch him on camera, you can see him being super duper careful. So
yeah.
We'll see.
You got a nickname for him?
Yeah, the electric buck.
The electric. Why is that?
The first picture I ever got.
Because it looks like it's just hair shocked everywhere.
Yeah, the first picture I ever got literally looked like that. Just looked like electricity on his head. So
yeah, like an '80s hairband, just like sticking out from everywhere.
Yeah.
Actually, that's what I thought when you first sent it to me. And so, are you bow only, or are you using a gun now?
I use everything.
Yeah. So right now you're after him with a gun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then muzzleloader.
And you're not going to take another buck because you're on this one, right? Or
I know, that's what I'm saying now. So yeah,
he showed me a couple bucks that he passed after that first one because he really wants Mr. Electric.
Yeah, exactly. And it's super tough when you're trying to hone in on a specific one. And honestly,
Can
you know,
drive you nuts, can it?
Yeah, I've been talking to a lot of my buddies, and I'm almost excited for the story to end however it does, you know, just because of the fact that it's such a time suck, you know, and it's fun, it's exciting, and you want it to happen. But I mean, I probably missed out on several other opportunities. I have all kinds of, you know, video of beautiful daytime bucks in several different spots. I'm not even hunting just because of the fact that I'm honing in on areas for the specific one. So I think sometimes when we focus on that, it can take away from like what we're really doing it for, you know. So I'm trying to check myself in a sense and say, hey, don't get, it's not all about that. You
That's
know?
true.
So slow down. So I think, you know, I'm getting to that point where I'm like, you know, I want to conquer it. I want to, you know, say I did it, but sometimes I feel like we can get into a pissing contest when it comes to, you know, social media and stuff these days, with us wanting to kind of show what we're capable of, or show, you know, what we can accomplish when we're hunting. And sometimes I think it's important to scale back a little bit and just appreciate the journey of it all, you know. So I'm trying to put my mind back in that state too.
Yeah, well, that was happening to me a little bit with, I shot my first buck this year. It was a 9-pointer, and for me it was the biggest buck I'd ever killed, but, you know, he's probably a 120, 125 inch, and I'm, you know, biggest buck. I love that thing. After that, I was like, I'm going to hunt this big 9-pointer that's like a 150 inch or so. That's in that same patch of woods, and that was my goal. Kind of like where your goal is this big buck, right? And you're holding out for him right now. So I actually saw that buck came in 2 days after I killed the first 9-pointer, but I just messed it up because I didn't, you know, I told you I sat down on my climber like an idiot. Should have stayed facing the way I knew he was. But then after that, I went back to that spot so many times, and I think, you know, the spot dried up. I stopped seeing bucks there altogether. Every couple of days, I would see a group of does. I'd see 5 or 6 does together. They're all grouped up, but I didn't see any bucks, and I just focused on that spot way too much.
Yeah.
And then, you know, yesterday I had the opportunity at that big 6-pointer, and you know, it's like, listen, I'm okay with letting that buck live. I was focusing a little bit too much on him, and hopefully he's still there next year, and I get to see what he looks like, you know.
Yep, I know. Part of me is excited, hoping that the electric buck dumps his sheds in the next week or so, you know, just so it can be over for me for the year, and I can say, you know, I can go on that mission. You're
in this spot with him that he might be on his way down soon.
That's what I thought.
10 or 11.
That's what I thought 3 years ago, and he just continuously is maintaining.
What
so
insane.
It is insane. So. And I had a similar situation with another one that was one of my hit listers that I ended up finding dead last year. That was crazy, you know.
You found him dead?
Yeah. I don't know
what did he die of, you know.
I have trail cam pictures of him going by with half of his rack. I'm hunting one day, and I'm in an area that I go to a lot. I'm checking the camera, and I look down and I find one of his sheds, you know, and I'm like, what is this doing here? It doesn't even belong here. He doesn't spend any time here. Why is this here? So now I'm looking at the tracks in the ground and the snow, and I'm noticing small bits of blood too. So I'm like, oh, he's bleeding from his pedicle. His other one's probably right over here. Let me take a walk. And as I walked further and further down the tracks, I started noticing, you know, coyote tracks, and then there was a little bit of fur and more blood. And then eventually I just came to his body, you know. I came to the dead deer, bald, you know, and I'm like, his leg looked overly, it was probably about 3 times the size. His one leg was 3 times the size of the other. So I don't know if somebody took a shot at him somewhere, or if maybe he got caught in some barbed wire or something, or a coyote, you know, bit him and got infected, or what happened. But then I went the next day and I scoured the area looking for his shed. I ended up finding it about a mile away from there. I had checked a camera, and I had pictures of him on the camera, and then right after him was 5 coyotes, like 2 minutes behind him.
No way.
Yeah.
And did he have? Were both of his antlers shed at that point?
He had one. He had the one that I had found. So that told me that, okay, the other one's got to be behind the camera. So I went behind the camera, and I found it.
Did he look injured on the camera?
Yeah, he was favoring that leg. Yeah.
So, because normally, like, you know, I talked about coyotes in one of my recent podcasts. You know, they go after the majority of the damage they're doing are on fawns. Yeah. Right. You know, they're rarely going to take down a mature buck. Mm-hmm. You know, I guess the buck has to be injured.
Injured in some way. Yeah, that's what I think. Some was definitely up with his leg for sure. But yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Crazy. So
What about what do you think? Like, how are you with your scent control? Like, how big is the scent and the wind, and how does that I mean, you're up 27 feet, the wind can carry over, but like, how crazy are you with your scent?
I'm becoming more and more crazy. I'm trying to learn from a lot of other guys that are like, super detailed with it. I mean, I'm very detailed. Obviously, I shower in no scent. I make sure I keep my stuff in a tote. I put a bunch of, balsam branches in with it and stuff like that to keep all my gear, smelling good. I try to, make sure I clean my mouth out good, not go in there smelling like morning breath and everything else. But
what do you so before you go on, like when you clean, I've heard like don't like brushing your teeth is a bad smell. So what do you do? Like you don't want to have your minty fresh breath because that's a foreign smell. Somebody said put peanut butter on the roof of your mouth. I mean, you obviously don't want bad breath either. So
yeah. I think I brush my teeth normally, gargle, and then after that I'll eat I have a bunch of tea berries, which are like a natural thing that grows in the woods, and it's almost like a spearminty type flavor, and I just chew those throughout the time I'm hunting. So
yeah,
who knows if it works or not?
Yeah, that's a good little tidbit though.
But I think for the most part, you got to play the wind too. So I think it's multiple factors. You just got to stack the deck and stack the odds in your favor. I have a buddy that I hunt with a lot who's like kind of a mentor. He's kind of an old school guy, and he has all these little different tricks and stuff that he does. And it's hilarious. He'll literally take Gas X in the morning before he goes into the stand to make sure he's not tooting 20 feet up.
Yeah,
so,
yeah. What else is he? What are a couple of his other old school kind of things that he does?
I mean,
I love hearing about that stuff.
Yeah, stuff, and then just utilizing the environment that you're in.
Yeah.
So if there's a lot of pines and balsams in the area you're hunting, break some of those branches off on the way in and break them and really grind that stuff into your clothes and just take advantage of what you want to blend in. So
one of the best smells is like clearing a spot, like if you're hunting from the ground or just making a scrape with your boot.
Oh, the dirt,
that fresh dirt smell. I love that.
Just roll around in that. Yeah.
Pick up some leaves, put them on you.
Yep, all of that stuff. So yeah, I mean, I'm becoming better and better with it. I'm not one of those guys that has an ozonics that uses that all day and stuff like that. But
again,
I'm
the
definitely
wind is the bad. I mean,
you gotta pay attention to the wind. Even the other day, I was hunting in a spot. I think it was on Friday, and the wind is perfect. It's blowing in my face. I'm looking out over this little patchy oak flat and with some thick cover, and all of a sudden I hear a deer blowing upwind of me, probably 70 yards, and I'm like baffled because the wind, there's no way my wind is getting to the deer,
Yeah.
But maybe it is, you don't know what it's doing 100 yards behind you. Maybe it's wrapping around a ridge or, going up and spinning around some way, but you just never know. But you gotta do your best to play the wind, learn the terrain. This happened to be a spot that I have never hunted before, specifically, within 100 yards of it. So I never went in there with any sort of cotton balls or anything like that to see what the wind really does. But yeah, I definitely pay attention to it and try to do the best that I can. This year, I think I've been more careful than ever, like I change before I go into the woods. I don't let the boots that I use in the woods hit anything other than the little box in the back of the truck.
So I haven't gotten that good yet, but
yeah, I try not to drive, wear them for anything other than just hitting the ground in the woods. Same thing with all the outer gear that I wear. So
yeah, half the time my boots are just right here in the garage, and my jacket's hanging on one of these chairs, and I realize that there's a lawnmower in here, and there's gas cans and stuff, and that's got to be on there. It's got to be on there. But
yeah,
I'm sure I'll get more serious. All right, so with everybody doing their Christmas shopping, I'm sure a lot of you are procrastinating and you're looking for something to get. I got to remind you of one of the best Christmas gifts of all time. It's an old staple, and that's a bottle of wine or a case of wine. And if you're going to be buying wine, I know most people listening to this podcast have bought wine or regularly buy wine. Don't go to the store during COVID. Dude, just go online. Go to heronhill.com. Check out what they got. My favorite is their Eclipse Red. I'm a big red guy, but they're known for their whites. But hey, get on there. Support your favorite podcast. Support your favorite podcast's biggest sponsor, and get some great gifts for Christmas And it also is going to enter you into the New Year's raffle. Every bottle of wine you buy from now until the end of the year is going to get you one entry into our big New Year's raffle. So, I mean, look, there's like 4 positive things there. Plus, it's just really great wine. So remember, use code HS5 for an additional 5% off at checkout. That'll let them know that you heard about their wine from us. And if you buy a whole case with HS5, you're going to get 20% off total, plus free shipping, plus some amazing gifts, and you're showing your support for us and our sponsor. So thank you very much. Heron Hill Winery, the official wine of hunters, and more importantly, their wives and girlfriends everywhere. Look, I hate ticks. You hate ticks. I know you hate ticks. I know your parents hate ticks. I know your kids hate ticks. We all hate ticks. You know what I want to do to ticks? I want to kill them. You know how you do that? Sawyer permethrin. Not only repels ticks, keeps them off your clothes, but if they do happen to get on there, it'll kill them. They only have to go over 1.5 inches of your clothing that's been treated with Sawyer permethrin to die. What's better than that? Maybe killing a big buck, but this is a close second. These guys are an amazing company. They're U.S. based. They're family owned and operated. Look for the yellow bottle. You can find them in Cabela's, Bass Pro Shop, Dick's Sporting Goods, Moose Jaw, REI. Find them online. Whatever you got to do. Get Sawyer permethrin. It is not expensive. It'll save your life from these diseases that ticks carry. And it's a quick application. You spray it on your clothes, spray it on your hat, put it on your socks and shoes, put it on your backpack, let it dry outside in the breeze, and it dries odorless. The deer are not going to pick you off from putting this stuff on your clothes. I guarantee you. Get Sawyer permethrin. You won't regret it. I got to get a pickup truck. I'm still driving my Jeep around, but I
get a Jeep as well. Yeah, same thing.
Yeah. Oh, so you hunt with your Jeep too?
Yeah.
Yeah. And what do you have one of those?
I literally call a buddy.
Oh, yeah.
Throw it in your truck. Let's go.
That's what I've been doing too.
I'm going to pull the trigger on getting one of those things. But I need a pickup truck at some point.
Yeah, they make those platforms that go on the back of the Jeep that you can, kind of, it comes out the back and you can drape a deer over them.
The deer I'm going for, I don't know if they'll fit.
That's true. I don't think, and it definitely wouldn't fit in Wrangler.
Yeah, no, never.
Yeah, all right, so we went over scent. What about calling? Do you do a lot of calling? Are you an aggressive caller?
Yeah, the power grunt is essential all day. Before the light, just
so it's an aggressive
hauling. No, I don't. I hardly ever call.
Really?
I try to not do it. Every now and then I'll do a few light grunts. Maybe half an hour before like the day's over or something like that. If I feel that I'm close enough to the bed of a deer that I'm hunting that I just want to spark that curiosity to have him, maybe get up 10 minutes early or something like that. But for the most part, I try to stay silent. But I've seen it work both ways. I think 4 years ago I got a nice one. I was on my way to my son's soccer game that day, so I had to get out of the stand a little bit early, and it was like 9 a.m, and I'm like, man, this game's at like 11. I gotta get out of here soon. Happen. So I had one of those like rattling bags, and I took the thing and I like Nolan Ryan'd it against the tree real quick and started like cracking it, and just I was like, I don't give a shit at this point, just whatever,
Right.
And literally as soon as I was done with that sequence, like all I heard was crashing across the swamp, going from one side to the other, and I'm like, so at that point I'm like, all right, what's going on? There's a doe's getting chased, so I was like, maybe my rattling caused a young buck to jump them up or something, but they just keep going back and forth. They're not coming near me, so I grabbed my doe bleat. And then I ended up hitting the doe bleat a couple times because, I had talked to somebody before and they had mentioned that, do that if, and the doe might want to shake the buck off on you. So I did that. And then sure enough, the doe made a beeline across the swamp, like directly
trying
from
to
my tree.
trade the buck.
Yeah. Confuse them, get them off her ass, whatever. And she went right under my tree, and then a train of bucks is coming behind it. There's literally 4. And then this big one that I got called Elk Head. He was right there, and I had to literally scream at him to get him to stop before I could take the shot. I'm like, hey! And just put the brakes on.
Yeah.
Punk. That was it.
Yeah, the one yesterday that I shot, a couple of mats, but he didn't stop either. I don't remember if I think I did scream.
Yeah, sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do.
I gotta see this elk head buck, and we'll put it up on Instagram.
Yeah, he's a good one.
As we promote this, but man, that's cool. I had a mature 8-pointer chasing a doe mid-November, and I was trying to grunt. They were going through full speed. I mean, it was just there was no point in it. But that's a good point that at that point he's stuck on her. He's not coming into a grunt. He doesn't give a shit.
Nope.
So the only way to try to get him towards you is to make the doe come towards you.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and it worked.
A fawn bleat or a doe bleat, yeah, it can work there.
Yeah, it definitely worked. So I was excited that it panned out that way, and that was the same stand that I got the nice one that I had got last year out of as well. So
yeah,
it's funny, man. Sometimes there's certain stands that just that work out good for you if you know.
Yeah. Now so what do you notice that's different about those? Damn, that's a nice. When did you get that one?
2016.
Yeah, that's a nice freaking deer right there.
Yeah, he was a good one.
Wow, massive. Do you weigh your deer?
Yeah, he was 220.
Yeah, he looks huge.
Yeah, he was 220 dressed.
Wow, man, that's a beauty.
Yeah,
that's incredible.
Yeah, he's a beast.
And he was fourth in line, or was he right after the doe? In that train?
No, he was the first one. Yeah,
he was the first one.
Yeah, he was on her. He was like grunting up her ass.
And what was behind him?
There was 3 other ones. One was a spike, and the other 2 were definitely like shootable bucks,
Yeah.
But they weren't him, And
Yeah.
I was focused on him too. I usually try to pick out a target every year.
You had his sheds?
I had one that was chewed to death, but
yeah,
that was it.
Yeah.
Yeah. He kind of sparked all that for me, because
Really?
it was like a deer that I had targeted the year before and really wanted him and putting a lot of time and ended up getting him. And then I've done that 3 times so far. So
yeah,
it's getting frustrating though.
But do you normally tag out and get $2 and and you're a little bit less
No, I mean
with the other one?
No, I've gotten skunked, just like everyone has before too.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that has to do with just targeting a specific one and not caving in. But, this year I was like, I saw my buddy who I was talking about before, the old time dude. I mean, he's smoked monsters, and this dude will shoot like, an average 8-pointer, like just to, meet in the freezer. So,
yeah,
and he's super stoked about it every time. So,
yeah.
So this year, as soon as I saw that one, I was like, I took a page out of his book and was like, man, I got 2 tags. Let me have some fun for a little bit.
Who am I trying to be here?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, I think I'm gonna, kind of go that way from here on out. Just try to get always try to get a good racked buck.
Yeah, get a good one early, and then focus
on whatever the target is. Then focus on something for the wall, something for the fridge, and something for the wall.
Yeah.
Because the ones for the wall, and they haven't tasted as good as the
older. Yeah, they're bigger and older. And,
tastes like a baseball glove.
Do some slow cooking.
Yeah.
What do you like? How do you cook your venison? What's your favorite way to eat it?
This year, I mean, this whole deer that I just got, I'm planning on, he's going to be jerky mostly.
Really? Yeah. I heard
but
people that do a whole deer jerky, and I don't know. I could never do that, but
yeah,
jerky's good. I mean, you can eat it any time.
There's just so many different flavors, and I like that. But I make a ton of chili too. But I'm not someone who, I don't just cook a venison steak up and just sit down and eat it. I like
Yep.
I like too much, ribeyes to do that. I can't. The comparison isn't there for me, so I have to.
Yeah.
I enjoy it, but I enjoy it like kind of disguised in a sense.
Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah. I always do I prefer the steaks, and but I was just talking with the guy that was on the way out as you were coming in here, and he. I was telling him that my mother-in-law, she's from overseas and from Kyrgyzstan, and she lives with us, and she's finding all these interesting ways to cook venison that I would have never thought of, because growing up, all I really ever did was put it in a pan with some butter, and that's how we pretty much ate every piece of venison.
How are they coming out? Good?
Oh yeah, really good. I mean, so today I just had the heart from my deer yesterday. She cut up and put into a goulash. So I had heart goulash, and it was pretty good. I liked it. Yeah, but it's just interesting. There's a lot of different things you can do with deer.
Yeah, I think of that too, because I have a lot of friends from different cultures and stuff like that, and I eat Thai food a ton. And the people at the restaurant I constantly go to, they want some too, so I'm gonna give them some, see what they chef up with it.
Yeah,
so.
Venison tacos are always great. That's something easy to do. You can do that a million different ways.
Yeah, most of my kids are vegetarian, though their moms are, so it makes it difficult for me. It's like it's all on my shoulders.
That's true.
I mean? So
yeah. So what do you find out about, like you said, this buck, the elk buck, is in a spot where you've killed some other big ones, right?
Yeah.
And so what's different about that spot than?
I think it's the perfect scenario. It's a place where 3 different kind of 3 different types of vegetation meet. It's like a swamp, an oak ridge, and then like a rocky, rocky kind of ledge area. So it has everything. It's got cover, it's got the water, it's got the terrain feature, and the way that it's positioned too on any sort of north or west wind. It just I never have to. I go way out and around, but I never have to ever touch where the deer are. I kind of come to the tree, and there's a rock wall between me and the swamp, and I never cross that. I never have to. And the deer are always over in there. So, and the wind is constantly blowing back into this, big ledge behind me. That they're just not gonna come down. They go around it. So it's just perfect. It's just one of those areas. It's just perfect.
How did you find it? Did you find it?
Just scouting. Just scouting. I had 2 of my buddies. I let them hunt it this year, and both of them whacked a good one out of that tree.
Really?
Yeah, it's called the killer tree. We're gonna put a plaque on it.
You got to trust those guys not to give that spot up.
Yeah, no, they won't. They won't do it. They've helped me drag all the big ones out of there. So this year, since I was
they drive trucks, huh?
Yeah, exactly. They got trucks. I gotta pay them back somehow.
Yeah.
So it's just one of those areas where it's just I could hunt it. I mean, I have hunted it for 5 days straight, and it didn't matter.
Well, that's what I felt like this spot, and it sounds similar. Where I got this 9, then there's that really big 9 in there. I hunted it so much this year, and the activity never slowed down. It just never did. I saw more deer almost every time I went in. The more I hunted it, the more deer I saw, and the bigger the bucks were getting every time.
Yep.
And it was just one of those spots that had tons of sign, and there's a swamp and rocky area. It sounds very, very similar, but I know it's not the same spot.
Yeah.
Dude, it was getting hotter and hotter and hotter. And then after that big 9, I blew the opportunity on him. Every time I went in after that, no more bucks.
Yeah, for me, what also makes this area good is across the swamp from me, maybe 150 yards is like a major doe bedding area.
Yeah.
And, we could go in there right now and we're jumping doe out of there. No matter when you go, you're always jumping them out of there.
So these bucks got a doe buffet over there.
Exactly. So that, that coupled with the terrain features and all the vegetation and the food and the coverage, just the perfect scenario, especially for that first and second week in November, So it works out good. Other times
you haven't really seen other hunters in there. It's like
no, there's other guys, but one of my other buddies hunts across the swamp on the other side, and you develop a respect for the other guys that are in there for the most part. I haven't bumped into any guys that have been too dickish yet where, if they find out you're hunting a certain area that they really encroach. You always run the risk of someone who's unaware that just ends up in an area and might be close to you. But I try to keep pretty good tabs on the areas I hunt. I literally
I'll take cameras.
Yeah. Now, I'll take rides around different properties too. And if I see somebody randomly parked there, I'm like a stalker. I'll put like a note on their car and be like, "Hey, I'm hunting here."
SevOne was here.
Yeah, and then just try to touch base with them, and then let them know kind of where I am, see where they are, and just try to stay out of each other's way. Because the same point, I don't want to screw up somebody else's opportunities either. So
yeah, you ever put a mountain bike in your Jeep and use that to help scout?
No. I keep looking at those Quiet Cats. They'd be super, super cool and fun to use. But I think you're probably going to miss a lot scouting-wise if you're doing that. I mean, I think it makes sense if you're going to get to a specific area that's pretty remote and you want to get there without being all sweaty and stuff like that if you're going to hunt. But for scouting, think of how much you'd miss,
Yeah.
As soon as I get out of the car, I'm in the woods within 50 yards, and I'm cruising. That's how you're going to find different stuff, because... with me with the bike, I'd know I would go to specific areas, and sometimes you miss those overlooked pockets, like you were saying before. You just.
Well, one thing I found, I started using my bike this summer, like kind of late summer. You're getting into the fall. I started putting it in my Jeep, driving somewhere, and then just driving. It's not like I'm in the woods. I'm on main roads and going through neighborhoods and stuff.
Yeah.
But just getting a nice 10, to 15 mile bike ride in, and looking in backyards and going by fields and just keeping it. And then you slowly are like, there seems to be a bunch of deer here. I've seen deer here on this bike ride more often than not. You know? And you can zone in on some hot spots and just keep mental tabs of it. And then you might see a big buck. You know, I saw a couple of really big bucks and went in later and put in cameras. And I just found it kind of cool and fun, something to do.
Yeah, it's a different way to do it.
Get a little workout, and it's not the big deep woods, but keeping a tab on the suburban hunting population. You know?
Yeah, it's not always just the biggest woods either. You know, I tend to go for bigger patches rather than smaller ones, but a lot of the little pockets in between hold big deer, and they'll have much less pressure too, you know?
Especially when everybody comes in with the guns, right? They'll push them into those pockets.
Yeah, they'll hop across the street into the small, 3-acre patch that no one ever goes into because it's just kind of landlocked, Yeah. So that's what I find. I have a buddy who shot a monster a few years ago, and it was the same thing. Everybody enters this patch of woods, from this parking area, and, they walk up the trail and immediately hook a left, which brings you into the hole. All the woods is to the left. To the right of the trail is probably maybe a 300-yard to 500-yard patch before you get to the dirt road that you came in on. And no one ever takes a right because, you're going to go right towards the road.
Yeah.
And he was in there and smoked a giant
a
few years ago. So you just never know. You just got to follow the sign. That's what it's about,
Yeah. What about when you normally find you find a big shed, then that buck's in there, and you're going to focus in on that area and put some cameras up and stuff. Do you do anything with mock scrapes? Do you open up scrapes yourself? Do you find one that's used and put your cameras on scrapes? And do you have a scrape strategy? Like, do you hang a stand next to the scrape and hunt it in the evening? Or
most of my cameras are on community scrapes, so I find a lot of those through shed hunting and through scouting throughout the year, and they use them all year round. So I have doe and buck hitting them.
You can see it in February when you're doing some shed hunting.
It's already opened
scrape.
up. Yeah, exactly. So they just use those community ones constantly. So most of my cameras are on those, and I make sure I doctor them up every time I'm in the area. I try to pose as another buck in the area. Every time I go in, I'll use different scents or whatever, and put some pre-orbital on the branch and really dig the dirt back up and just reactivate it.
Do you use a stick to do that, or your boot, or what?
Usually a stick. Yeah, I'll grab a nice branch and just rake the hell out of it.
Yep.
And it seems to work. They like that fresh dirt scent for sure.
Yeah.
I think that attracts them. And then they come in and hammer away at it,
Yep.
So yeah, it seems to.
You keep your cameras up all year, or do you take them down?
No, I run them all year.
Really?
Yeah. Some of them have been in the same tree for 5-6 years. I just swap the batteries out and just keep it going. So you got to claim it. Some of my spots are private, some of them are public land. So
I just saw a picture on one of the Facebook pages of some camera in some spot in Arizona where there's it's obviously a watering hole that deer are constantly visiting, and there's 6 different cameras from 6 different people on there, and they're all just they're all want to see without stealing someone's camera, which is a big issue. Unfortunately, people's cameras get stolen.
Yeah, I've been lucky. I've had a couple that have been yanked over the years, but for the most part, I try to keep them up pretty high too.
Yeah.
If they're in an area where I feel like there's going to be any human traffic, I'll put them up nice 12 feet, bring some climbing pegs with me.
Yep.
Put them up nice and high and give them a little tilt.
Yep.
But, yeah, I don't know. I don't like the guys do that,
The pictures are way better when they're lower on the tree, though. Don't you notice? I feel like
the deer looks bigger
always.
always.
I like the angle better.
Same thing when you get, when you take a picture of the deer,
Yeah.
You hold it's like a fish, you hold it way out.
Yeah,
and it just looks better. So yeah, I definitely think the angle can look better from that. But if you're certain deer too, I notice are scared of the cameras. I have a couple that anytime that infrared light goes off, they bolt.
Yeah.
So I don't know if they associate that area or that light with some trauma that happened to them previously, or if it's just some sort of reaction to the light. Maybe it just affects them differently than how it affects us.
Yeah, for the most part, I haven't seen most deer You know, you can see they look at the camera, but then they stick around, and I see them multiple all the time. But
yeah, I'll show you some videos after. I have some mature bucks that literally are like smelling the ground, look up, freeze, and then just 1,000 miles an hour, boom, in the middle of the night.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, like multiple. Yeah,
well, I think as you get the more mature, dominant, like old patriarchs of the woods, no, those guys aren't.
Well, and they've just seen everything already.
Yeah.
So maybe they were in an area where they're, I think some of those big ones at one point were, it was a spike horn that somebody gave a haircut.
Yep.
And they were in an area, they saw a camera, then what the hell is this? And then a few days later they get a friggin' arrow in the shoulder, and then now they're gonna be scared for the rest of their life.
Same thing. Yeah, I think if you were injured as a buck from a hunter early on, you probably are then more likely to grow older.
Yeah,
because you're more cautious all the time.
Of course, yeah. You've already,
And maybe that's what starts the abnormalities in the antlers, right? And the non-typical.
Yeah, it could.
The drop tines and stuff. It's like those big gnarly drop tine bucks probably are all were, not all of them, but
tagged when they were young. Yeah.
Yeah.
Something causes them to be more cautious than the rest, and I think that plays into it. I mean, think of it even with us as men when we're growing up as boys. There's always those kids during the teenage years that are ready to fight everybody and do all the wild stuff, and those are the ones that end up friggin' checking out early.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
In comparison to
yeah.
So I think that the younger 2-3-year-olds that are coming into every time somebody grunts, they don't make it very long.
Yeah. Trophy Ridge products are intelligently designed to give you a distinct advantage and be deadly accurate. The team at Trophy Ridge believes smart, hunt-inspired innovation should be at the foundation of each product's existence. You have enough to worry about on a hunt. Your gear should not be one of them. Trophy Ridge accessories give you the comfort of always knowing you're using the best bow hunting equipment when out in the woods or at the range. For information on the all-new 2021 lineup of Trophy Ridge sights, quivers, rests, releases, and stabilizers, visit trophyridge.com. Trophy Ridge, the tools bow hunters trust.
So
that one I got the other day, he gave me second opportunity. I mean, I shot and I missed him first because I wasn't able to range him. It happened so fast. I had to guess, and it went right under his belly the first shot, and he stood there for 7 minutes. Gave me another opportunity. He messed up, but there was a hot doe, and he wasn't leaving her.
Yeah, they don't.
So, yeah, but I had a thought. I asked one other person about this, and it's just a weird theory I had sitting in the stand. You had all this time to think, right? Mm-hmm. There was a button buck coming in, and I could tell he was just tiny this year. And it was early season, so he was just real tiny. And he was looking for his mom, and he was just button buck, just screaming for her. And he's in real high grass stuff. He can't see anywhere. And I was thinking, if he got orphaned, if I killed his mom came and I shot her, right? And he got orphaned early. Some conventional thinking would be, oh, he's probably going to die. Coyote's going to pick him off. He doesn't have any guidance now. But what if it's the other way around? Like, what if it forces him to grow up faster and learn on his own, and then he's the one that becomes the big mature buck that lives longer than the others because he ends up being more cautious almost. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that can be a factor. I also think that the big mama doe is probably the hardest deer to kill in the woods. Because if you think about it, she's the one responsible for instilling all of this, all of these things into them from a young age. Yeah. So, it might be the same thing like I was just saying with teenage kids. If you guys have any kids, once a kid becomes a teenager, they hardly listen. So maybe in that scenario that you're talking about, if the deer's been with his mom for 8-10 months and knows the ropes, and then she's no longer there, he takes it a lot more serious and follows those guidelines even more in comparison to making those mistakes around her and not having to suffer the consequences for them.
Yeah, it's just a weird thought that I had, and I was wondering, I like to hear what other people think about it. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. What's your top? What's your biggest piece of advice to somebody who wants to kill a big buck? A lot of people listening to this podcast are new hunters, and they like to look up to people like you and for advice because you kill some big ones and you're onto them and you're into it and you're serious. And what do you tell somebody that's just getting into it? What's the biggest key?
I think you have to it's an investment. So whatever free time you have to invest in it, whether it's in the summer, whether it's in the fall, whether it's postseason, you have to put that time in. You have to spend time in the woods. You have to really pay attention to what's happening in the pieces that you're planning on hunting, and just don't let up. You really have to. I scout all year. It's not like just hunting season comes and I turn on my deer radar. It's like all year long. Like I have pictures of these deer that I'm chasing in velvet when they just have knobs on their head, and I can tell the difference between them because of potential scars on their ears or something like that. So I think investing as much time as you have, because not everybody has as much time as someone else, and just spending as much time as you can focused on it and taking it seriously, you're going to do better. And I think that translates into anything that we want to do.
Yeah.
You with this podcast, if you only did this podcast once every 3 months, it's not going to be as successful as you're doing 3 of them today. You're gonna have more.
That's why I committed when I started this. I was like, look, it'd be the easy thing to do a podcast a month, or once every couple weeks. But I wanted to commit to doing one every week, every Sunday, weekly podcast. Now, as I say that, I just made an announcement that in the off season, I might do it bi-weekly, because it is hard in the off season to keep it up. But that's why I'm stacking up the podcast now and interviewing multiple people on the same day.
Yeah.
I want to keep it going every week, but I don't have a ton of time either. But I'm gonna try to make it work.
Yeah,
you got to put in the effort.
Yeah. So once again, same thing. Time and commitment.
Rapping. You and I both rapped in previous lives.
We'll throw some links in it.
We're both named Pat. We're both half rapper, half hunters.
I know it's such a unique.
And it took me. I mean, I spent thousands of hours probably during college and honing those skills.
Yeah, I could have been a doctor 5 times if I would have spent a quarter of the time writing my songs that I did focusing on something else.
But it's probably like now I don't know. We'll talk about how you got into hunting, but once you started hunting, you stopped rapping and producing probably this much.
No, I hunted my whole life, so I'm a rare breed, man. I was born in. My father and grandfathers always hunted, but I was born in urban housing projects, and then around in Waltham. At these
So
little.
You're from Mass.
Yeah, I'm from Mass, and then about I think 11, 12, we got kicked out of there. So then we moved to Maine, and we lived with my aunt had this old farmhouse. So I went from this very diverse urban environment to instant rural, So that's why I'm half urban, the hood hunter, half urban, half hunting. So yeah, it's just funny how life can take those twists and turns. When I was in Maine, I spent a lot more time trying to be city, and then, now that I live closer to the city, I'm spending a lot more time trying to be away from the city.
Well, that's what helped as a kid. You helped you stand out in Maine, right? You're the new kid, and coming from Massachusetts, and there's probably, nobody there was grew up in the projects, right?
Yeah.
So you were the new kid. And how'd you guys get into hunting there?
Well, I mean, my dad had always hunted.
Your dad, even while you guys were just living in the projects?
Yeah. He used to literally come home through the projects with a deer on the hood of the station wagon.
You guys were the only ones in the projects hunting, probably.
Yeah. It was super blue collar.
That's cool though.
But yeah, it's and like I said, my grandfather too, same thing. It's just crazy to think it almost doesn't even matter what walk of life you are. I think we all have this idea in our mind of what a hunter looks like and what a hunter does for a living, and what cloth they're cut from. And I think social media is helping a lot of us realize that we're more similar than not alike. There's hunters of every walk of life. There's hunters from different cultures, everything.
Yeah.
So
I had a dude that just moved here from Pakistan. And when I say here, he moved to Manchester, New Hampshire area, and he started reaching out because he saw the podcast somewhere online and was asking me all this stuff about, he wanted to deer hunt here. He hunted in Pakistan, hunted goats and all kinds of stuff, up in the mountains. But he's like, I want to get into deer hunting, And you don't see a lot of Pakistani hunters around here.
Yeah.
But he's like, I went back and forth with him, and gave him suggestions on type of gear and have an open ear for him. And yeah, man, there's hunting is something that's for everybody.
Yeah, and I think it really gets in touch with being human. I feel like, especially in this day and age of technology, we're all so detached from what it is to really be human and really be alive and really be part of this ecosystem that we are a part of on Earth. We're so caught up in these wires and electronics that we're not paying attention to what really is happening around us. And
Yep.
hunting is something that brings that full circle for you. You really have to you become human again, and you have to use those senses.
It's how we got to where we are and how we advanced as a civilization and advanced all these technologies. We had to hunt at one point to survive. We had to. That's how we all ate meat. We discovered fire and learned how to cook some meat over the fire and all that stuff. And that's how we got to where we are. And if you we're tied back to rapping again real quick. Another weird thought that I've had before is you like Kanye, you're a producer. He's he's a genius. I really do think he projects himself as a genius, and he's so, over the top on things that it can rub some people the wrong way, but he really is. I mean, his production is incredible. His rapping is incredible. People told him that he could never rap, so he wanted to do it. That's how he evolved from producer to you guys tell me I can't do it, I'm going to become the best rapper alive.
Yeah.
And all that stuff, and he's just got that drive. And then he got so into it that it did trip him a little bit. And I honestly, I think I understand. I don't think it's as much mental illness as people are, say that he's gone off the reservation. No, he's just changed his priorities. He's more into God now. But when you see what he got a little bit too into his head and got too deep into everything. So he did I feel like he strayed a little bit. And I always thought to myself, man, I wonder what would happen if you could pluck Kanye out of that scenario and just take him into the woods. Tell Kanye, Kanye, go with SevOne for a month.
It's funny you say that.
And go hunting with it. And just the amount of how much it would ground you. And he kind of is doing it because he bought that place in Wyoming.
Is it Wyoming? Yeah.
But yeah, I've often thought, what if you take some of these people that are from inner city or something, they have all these crazy things going on and everything, and you just pluck them and put them into the woods with you for a month for a detox and teach them how to fish, teach them how to hunt.
Yeah. I've always thought that I wanted to do a reality show that was kind of based on that. We could take certain rappers and put them in these scenarios, and have them. I think it would benefit. I think any experience that is outside of what we're used to is good for us, regardless of what that is. Even if that's for someone who lives in Maine coming down and spending time in, an urban area,
Absolutely.
Same thing as somebody who's, has never left their square block in Dorchester, spending time in Maine. And I've done it both ways, and I've seen how those experiences can really open up someone's mind. If you never travel and you're just used to the 10-mile radius that you live in, you really have no perspective of what the potential is and how much the world holds.
Yeah.
I've been blessed enough to travel all over the place, and I think the more you see, the more you appreciate.
Yeah, 100%. And I remember I grew up in Vermont, and there was a fresh air program is what it was called, and it was kids from inner city Boston and inner city New York that would go to Vermont and live there for the summer. It might have been only a couple weeks, could have been a whole summer, and they'd live with a host family there and experience what you call the fresh air. It's outside the city, and you get to experience the mountains and go fishing and do that kind of stuff. And I think it really is important. And I've talked to a few guys and who've expressed interest in doing something like that with hunting. I actually think you would be perfect for it because you grew up in the projects. You've done rap. You've got a network of rappers and producers and stuff like that. Where it actually can make a difference. You get a kid to go out with you that's never done it, open up their eyes. But even like we said, get Kanye, get one of these old school heads and just pluck them.
Yeah, and see how it goes.
Yeah.
I mean, I think there's an appreciation that we all have for hunting and fishing that if someone experiences it, you just fall in love with it. You can't help it. There's something ingrained in our DNA, like we said earlier, that really just grounds us. So I think if you've never experienced that, you wouldn't understand what it's like. So
Yeah.
providing that experience would be huge for them.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we got off on a little tangent there, but I think that was great. Good luck with getting that insane buck, Mr. Electric. Will you let me post that, or you don't want it? You want to keep?
Yeah, we'll keep them under wraps. There's already, I mean, there's like people creeping from every angle. like I might even have you bleep out what the name of my kind of vehicle is. Like,
Yeah,
it's that bad.
Yeah. Just tell me after.
Yeah. No, I'm just gonna buy a new one when I leave here. Look for the white Prius. It's me.
Yeah. SevOne's driving around in a white Prius, looking for a buck named. We got to come up with another fake name for him. Alter ego. But yeah, good luck with that, man. Once you kill him, then we'll post it.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah,
we'll hope so.
And thanks for coming, man. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate you. Thanks, man.
Thanks for listening to the Hunt Suburbia podcast. We hope you enjoyed it. We're going to release an episode every single Sunday throughout the season, throughout the entire year, and we will possibly be releasing some bonus episodes here and there throughout the week as people, come in freshly off a bow kill and tell their stories. We hope that happens throughout the season. There might be weeks where you get 2 or 3 bonus episodes. You might not get one for a couple of weeks, but there will be some bonus episodes. But you can count on us every single Sunday to have a new interview on throughout the season. Once again, thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next week. Big bucks I've been dreaming often, every night till I'm in a coffin. Vermont woods to the burbs of Boston, I'm looking for a tree to get lost in. Crisp mornings, little dust in the snow. Quality time, just me and my bow. Fall evenings, I know just where to go for some quality times for me and my bow.